You know that feeling. You're sitting next to someone you love, maybe on the couch, maybe in the car, after another small argument that somehow became huge. And the room is quiet now. Not peaceful quiet, heavy quiet. The kind where both of you are pretending to scroll your phones because reaching for each other suddenly feels harder than it should. And somewhere beneath the silence, you feel it. That terrifying thought. How did we get here? Why does this feel so lonely? Why do I miss someone who's literally sitting right beside me? Am I asking for too much or not enough? And here's the part most people never hear. The distance between two people rarely happens because love disappeared. It happens because emotional safety disappeared first. Because when people stop feeling emotionally safe, they stop being fully seen, fully honest, fully soft. And eventually, they stop reaching at all. But listen to me carefully. You are not failing at love. This is not proof you chose the wrong person. Every couple that has ever deeply loved each other has stood exactly where you're standing right now. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand the hidden realizations that completely change the way you see relationships, connection, conflict, and yourself. So you can stop repeating the same painful cycles and start building something real. Let's get into it. Most couples believe relationships fall apart because people stop loving each other. But the real truth is far more complicated than that. Most relationships slowly drift because two nervous systems stop feeling emotionally safe enough to stay open. That's it. Not a lack of chemistry, not bad luck, not because love ran out. Because beneath the surface, one person stopped feeling heard. The other stopped feeling appreciated. One became anxious, the other became withdrawn. And slowly, without either person realizing it, the relationship became a place of tension instead of refuge. And here's what nobody explains. Your partner's nervous system is reading you long before their conscious mind catches up. Your tone matters. Your presence matters. Your reactions matter. Because when safety leaves a relationship, love doesn't always disappear. It goes underground. What looks like avoidance is often overwhelm. What looks like anger is often hurt. What looks like needing too much is often someone terrified of losing connection. Bro, most couples spend years arguing about behavior while completely missing the emotional reality beneath it. And that's why nothing changes. Not louder conversations. Not more compromising. Not another relationship talk. But two people finally understanding the emotional patterns they've both been trapped inside, that changes everything. Here's the part no one talks about. Most couples think conflict is about the surface issue, the dishes, the texting, the tone, the forgotten plans. But beneath the surface, almost every recurring fight is actually about emotional meaning. Because your nervous system is constantly asking one silent question. Am I important to you right now? That's the real fight. When she says, "You never help around here," what she often means is, "I feel alone in this relationship." When he says, "Why are you always upset with me?" what he often means is, "I feel like I can never get it right." And here's what changes everything. Most people defend themselves immediately because criticism feels like rejection to the nervous system, like danger, like failure. So one person protests harder, the other shuts down further, and the cycle repeats. "You're overreacting. Nothing I do is enough for you." Now compare that to this. "I don't think this is really about the dishes, is it? You've been feeling unsupported for a while, haven't you?" Man, that one sentence can soften years of walls. Because suddenly, the conversation stops being about winning and starts becoming about understanding. That's when your partner stops feeling like an enemy to survive and starts feeling like someone you can finally reach again. This is where it gets really interesting. Most people in relationships spend years trying to be the version of themselves they think will be loved most. More agreeable, less emotional, less needy, more useful, more impressive. But eventually, performing becomes exhausting. Because real connection cannot grow where authenticity is missing. And here's the painful truth. A lot of people aren't rejected for who they are. They're disconnected because they never fully showed up in the first place. Not fully honest, not fully vulnerable, not fully emotionally available. So the relationship starts feeling strangely empty, even when technically everything looks fine. You know what that feels like? Like being emotionally homesick inside your own life. And internally, your partner may quietly be thinking, "I don't actually know what they feel anymore. I'm fine, don't worry about it." That response creates distance instantly. But this changes everything. "Honestly, I'm trying to act okay right now, but I'm actually overwhelmed." That's not weakness. That's emotional courage. This isn't a communication hack. This is what emotionally mature people naturally begin doing once they stop seeing vulnerability as danger. And when you do that, intimacy stops feeling forced and starts feeling real again. Most people think emotional withdrawal happens suddenly. It doesn't. It happens slowly, like scar tissue forming over hundreds of tiny moments that never got repaired. A dismissive tone here, a missed bid for connection there, an unresolved argument, another moment of not feeling chosen. And eventually, the nervous system adapts. It says, "Stop reaching. It's safer not to need so much." That's how emotional distance is created. Not in one giant betrayal, in small, unspoken moments. Because beneath the surface, people don't stop caring first. They stop hoping. And honestly, that realization changes everything. You've been distant lately. That sentence usually creates defensiveness. But this creates openness. I miss you. I feel like we haven't really been together emotionally for a while. Can you feel the difference? One accuses, one invites. And when someone feels emotionally invited instead of emotionally cornered, the walls between you begin coming down naturally. Here's what nobody explains. Your nervous system during conflict is like a smoke detector. It cannot always tell the difference between emotional tension and actual danger. So it sounds the alarm anyway. That's why your chest tightens, why your voice changes, why you suddenly shut down or explode or go numb. Most couples interpret these reactions as personality flaws, but they're often protective patterns, trauma patterns, attachment patterns, survival patterns. One partner pursues because closeness feels like safety. The other withdraws because space feels like safety. And both people secretly think, why can't they just understand me? But here's what changes everything. Not forcing someone to communicate faster. Not demanding instant vulnerability. Not weaponizing healthy communication. But creating enough emotional safety that honesty becomes possible. Can you stop shutting down for once? That creates more fear. But this changes the emotional atmosphere instantly. I can see you getting overwhelmed. I'm not against you right now. Because something inside the other person quietly says, I don't have to protect myself from you anymore. And that's the beginning of real repair. Most couples think intimacy is built in the big moments. Vacations, anniversaries, sex, grand gestures. But real connection is built in 30-second moments most people completely overlook. Looking up when they speak, touching their shoulder while passing by, responding instead of ignoring, turning toward instead of away. That's how relationships either strengthen or drift. Tiny moments, repeated consistently. Because every relationship is quietly asking two people the same question every day. When I reach for you emotionally, do you respond? And here's the painful part. Most couples don't realize how many small bids for connection they've stopped noticing. Look at this. Can I tell you something? How was your day? Tiny things, but beneath the surface, they carry enormous emotional weight. Her brain quietly registers, he still sees me. His nervous system quietly feels, she still wants me around. Half listening, no eye contact, distracted responses. That slowly creates distance. But this creates connection. Phone down, eye contact, presence. Not bigger love, not more perfect communication, not pretending conflict doesn't exist. Just two people repeatedly choosing to turn toward each other instead of emotionally drifting apart. That's what creates relationships that actually last. And that's the shift that turns love from something fragile into something safe. Most people confuse love with self-sacrifice. They think being a good partner means constantly shrinking themselves to keep the peace. Not speaking up, not setting boundaries, not expressing needs. But resentment grows anywhere authenticity dies. Every single time. Because eventually your nervous system starts screaming, nobody is taking care of me. And the heartbreaking part? Sometimes the person abandoning you is you. Most couples never realize that over-accommodating can damage intimacy just as much as emotional withdrawal. Because your partner cannot fully connect with a version of you that isn't real. It's okay. Whatever you want is fine. That sounds peaceful. But over time, it creates emotional invisibility. Now compare it to this. I love you, but this honestly doesn't feel good for me. That's not selfish. That's secure. This isn't about becoming harder. It's about becoming honest. And when two people stop abandoning themselves inside the relationship, something beautiful happens. Love stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like freedom. Most couples enter conflict trying to prove who's right, but emotionally mature couples enter conflict trying to understand what hurts. That's the difference. Because when winning becomes more important than understanding, intimacy dies quietly. Not immediately. Slowly. Like a light dimming over time. And man, this is why some couples can technically communicate for hours and still feel completely disconnected afterward. Because they were arguing facts, not revealing feelings, defending positions. That's not what happened. That protects ego. But this protects connection. Okay, help me understand what that felt like for you. And internally, something in your partner finally relaxes. They actually want to understand me. Not louder conversations, not endless processing, not becoming perfect communicators, but two people learning how to stay emotionally present without making each other the enemy. That's real intimacy. That's real maturity. That's real love. At the end of the day, this isn't really about relationship techniques. It's about awareness. It's about becoming someone who understands what's happening beneath the surface instead of reacting blindly from pain, fear, or old patterns. Because when you internalize these realizations, you stop approaching love like something you either have or don't have. You start understanding that connection is something you create, moment by moment, response by response, presence by presence. And honestly, that changes not only your relationships, but the way you move through life entirely. You become calmer, safer, more emotionally available, more real. Not perfect, just conscious. These aren't tips for getting better at relationships. They're the beginning of becoming the kind of partner you always wished existed for you. And the beautiful thing is, when one person truly changes the emotional tone of a relationship, the entire relationship begins changing with them. Because love was never just something you feel. Love is something you repeatedly choose to build every single day on purpose.